next topic is what should go into a student's grade. So, since we are talking about the grading system, the grading system in an instructor selects reflects his or her educational philosophy. So there are no right or wrong systems, only systems which accomplish different objectives. The following are questions which an instructor may want to answer when choosing what will go into a student's grade. So first question is, what should grades reflect absolute achievement level or achievement relative to others in the same class? So this is often referred to as the controversy between norm referenced versus criterion referenced grading. So in norm referenced grading system, the letter grade a student receives is based on his or her standing on in a class. A certain percentage of those at the top receive A. A specified percent of the next highest grades receive B, and so on. Thus, an outside person looking at the grades can decide which student in that group performed best under those circumstances. Such a system also takes into account circumstances beyond the student's control which might adversely affect the grades, such as poor teaching, bad tests, or unexpected problems arising from the entire class. Presumably, this would affect all the students equally, so all performance would drop but the relative standing would stay the same. On the other hand, under such a system, an outside evaluator has little additional information about what the student actually knows, since that will vary what the class. A student who has learned an average amount in a class of geniuses will probably know more than a student who is average in a class of low ability. Unless the instructor provides more information than just the grade, the external user of the grade is poorly informed. The system also assumes sufficient variability among student performances that the difference in learning between them justifies giving different styles of different grades. This may be true in large beginning classes, but it is shaky assumption where the student population is homogeneous, such as in upper division classes. So the other most common grading in system is the criterion reference system. So it is already discussed with. In this case, the instructor sets a standard of performance against which the student's actual performance is measured. All students achieving a given level receive the grade assigned to the level regardless of how many in the class receive the same grade. So an outside evaluator looking at the grade knows only that the amount has reached a certain level of a set of objectives. The usefulness of that information to the outsider will depend on how much information he or she is given on what behavior is represented by that grade. The grade, however, will always will always mean the same thing and will not vary from the class to class. A possible problem with this is that outside factors such as the discussed under norm reference grading might influence the entire class and performance may drop. In such a case, all the students would receive lower grades unless the instructor made special allowances for the circumstances. So, second question. Should grades reflect achievement only or non-academic components such as attitude, speed, and diligence? So it is very common practice to incorporate such things as turning in assignments on time into overall grade in a course. So primarily because the need to motivate students to get their work done is a real problem for instructors. Also, it may be appropriate to the selection of function of the grading that such values as timeliness and diligence be reflected in the grades. External users of the grades may be interpreting the mark to include such factors as attitude and compliance in addition to competence on the material. The primary problems with such inclusion is that it makes grades even more ambiguous than they already are. It is very difficult to assess these nebulous traits accurately or consistently. Instructors must use real caution when incorporating such value judgments into final grade assignment. There are two steps instructors should take care. First is to make students aware of this possibility well in advance of graded assignment. And number two, to make clear what behavior is included in such qualities in prompt completion of work and neatness or completeness. In short, non-academic components such as attitude, speed, diligence may be reflected in the students' grades provided they are informed in advance and that these qualities should be well understood. So number 3 question. Should grades report status achieved or amount of growth? So this is particularly difficult question to answer. In many beginning classes, the background of the students is so varied that some students can achieve the end objectives with little or no trouble while others with weak backgrounds will work twice as hard and still achieve only half as much. This dilemma results from the same problem as the previous question. That is the feeling that we should be rewarding or punishing efforts or attitudes as well as knowledge and knowledge gain. A positive aspect of this foreknowledge is that much of the uncertainty will often accompanies grading for students is eliminated. So since they can plot their own progress towards the designed grade, so there are many problems with growth measures as basis for change. The most of them being related to statistical artifacts. In some cases, the ability to accurately measure entering and exiting levels is shaky enough to argue against change as a basis for grading. Also, many courses are prerequisites to later courses and therefore are intended to provide the foundation for these courses. Growth scores in this case would be disastrous. Nevertheless, there is much to be said in favor of growth. As a component in grading, we would like to encourage hard work and effort and to acknowledge the existence of different abilities. Unfortunately, there is no easy answer to this question. Each instructor must review his or her own philosophy and content to determine if such factors are valid components of the grade. Last question is, how can several grades on diverse skills combine to give a single mark? So the basic answer is that they can't really. The results of instruction are varied that the single mark is really a Rube Goldberg or doing something by unnecessarily complicated means what could be done simply. As far as indicating what a student has achieved, it would be most desirable to be able to give multiple marks, one for each of the variety of skills which are learned. There are of course many problems with such a proposal. It would complicate an already complicated task. There might not be enough evidence to reliably grade any one skill. The halo effect of good performance in one area could spill over into others. And finally, most outsiders are looking for only one overall classification of each person so that they can choose the best. Our system requires what we produce one mark. Therefore, it is worth our while to see how they can be done even though currently the system does not lend itself to any satisfactory answers. So next topic is the standardized test scoring. So what is standardized test scoring? Test standardization is a process by which a teacher or researcher made tests are validated and item analyzed. After a thorough process of validation, the test characteristics are established. These characteristics include test validity, test reliability, test difficulty level, and other characteristics as previously discussed. Each standardized test uses its own mathematical scoring system derived by the publisher and administrators. And these do not bear any relationship to academic grading systems. Standardized tests are psychometric instruments whose scoring systems are developed by norming the instruments test using national samples of test takers, centering the scoring formula to assure that the likely score distribution describes a normal curve when graphed, and then using the resulting scoring system uniformly in a manner resembling a criterion reference. If you are interested in understanding and interpreting the scoring system of a specific standardized test, refer to the policies of test producers. So next is cumulative and averaging systems of grading. So here in the Philippines, there are two types of grading systems used, the averaging and the cumulative grading systems. In the averaging system, the grade of a student on a particular grading period equals the average of the grades obtained in the prior grading periods in the current grading period. So for example, students' grades are in preliminaries, a student got 80, and in midterms, a student got 90, and in finals, a student got 85. So 80 plus 90 plus 85 divided by 3 equals 85. So you have i total nimo ang tanan nimo nga grades sa prelims, sa midterms and finals, and then divided by 3, and that's the grade. That is the cumulative averaging grading systems. So 85 is the final grade for that semester. The Department of Education makes use of averaging grading system. In the cumulative grading system, the grade of a student in a grading period equals his current grading period grade, which is assumed to have the cumulative effects of the previous grading periods. For example, 90. In preliminaries, a student got 80, and in midterms grade, a student got 90, and in final grade, a student got 80. So the final grade equals one third of midterms, and then midterm grade, and then plus the two-third of a tentative final grade, and the one-third of 90 plus two-third of 80 equals 30 plus 53.33 equals 83. In which grading system would be there more fluctuations observed in the student's grades? How these systems relate with each norm or criterion referenced grading?